Mahendra, remotely partner at Nkonki and CEO and founder of Injebo Consulting, Ms. Ndumimi Dupi, next to him on his left. And then next to Ndumi, we have Karen Pepler, who's from Sasria, the finance director there. And next to Karen, we have Brian Mongofa from Nkonki, who's a partner. And then last but not least, on the left, we have from Discovery Holdings, Chief Compliance Officer Surina Menkis. Welcome. And then on the right of the chairman, we have Ms. Tobegasi Shuba Mashego, who's the Woolworths Group Director of Company Secretariat. And next to Tobega, we have Ms. Mohadi Machaba Abiodun, who's the lead partner at Ernst & Young's Africa Accounts, Markets and Industry, Business Development. Then we also have IT, Head of IT, Audit and Advisory at Nkonki, Mr. Ahmed Pandor. And last but not least, you've already seen him. He was in one of those pre-meetings. He's at the Nkonki Alberton office. He's a partner, Jacques de Villiers. So please give them a round of applause. They are going to take us through. The next time I stand up will be to tell them to start taking questions. That's all I will do. Take it away, Mahendra.
Thank you all, and welcome to this first audit committee meeting for the new financial year. It normally feels like the last because we are at the end of our year-end process. There are some apologies. Briefly, I think apologies from the audit committee member Tina. She unfortunately had another engagement. The CEO and the Chief Risk Officer also send their apologies. They cannot make this meeting to other commitments.
I just want to note, Mr. Chair, that Tina has submitted her comments in terms of the proceedings of the meeting for today.
Yes, I have seen those as well. Thank you. Is there any other apologies? Have I missed anything else?
No one else.
Just before we get started, Company Secretary, can you confirm we've got a quorum for this meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum for the meeting. In terms of the Companies Act, the Audit Committee needs to have 3 members, and we've got a quorum of more than the majority of the required number.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The pack was submitted 10 days ago with an agenda, so I believe everybody has had sight of that. Does anybody want to add anything to the agenda or amend or retract anything?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to raise a concern. This being the last audit committee meeting, I want it recorded that we are not pleased with the CEO not being in attendance. I would like us to find out the reasons later.
Yes, I do note that. I think it is important considering it's the meeting after the year end. The CEO should be present, and we would like formal feedback from him why he's not attended this meeting, considering we would like to look at risk and strategy of the business and also the reporting results for this.
And probably that should go into his evaluation also.
Yes, I think before we go that far, let's have a discussion with him and see if there are any other concerns that we might want to or not want to report to the board.
Noted.
Concerns are noted. From my side, as everybody's happy with the agenda, I'd like to propose 2 items to be added under general. You'll see we have a new invitee, Ms. Surena Menkis, who's the newly appointed compliance officer. And under 20.1, I'd like to include the structure of the newly formed compliance department, which Surena will take us through. And also I'd like to recommend a book under 20.2. So those are my 2 additions. Surena, welcome. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on board, and we look forward to adding value to the organization.
Thank you.
Okay, all. If you go through to item AC1, which is the minutes of the previous meeting, just like to go through that and look to adopt it. Quickly on page 1, is there any changes anyone would like to make? Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Okay, with no changes or comments noted, we take those minutes as read and approved.
Do you mind, Mr. Chair, to actually sign the minutes to certify that they're correct? Thank you.
Thank you. On the matters arising, there's 2 items listed in the agenda. One is feedback from the CFO, and the other one is also feedback from the CFO, but it relates to the vacancies in the finance department. So, Karen, could you please take us through to those 2 items?
Thank you, Chair. The first feedback that was requested was on the impact of IFRS 10 and 11 on the group. The IFRS 10 and 11 will be effective for annual periods beginning on or after 1 January 2013. In general, the definition of control has changed quite a bit, and this may lead to significant changes in the entity's reported financial performance and position. We have analyzed the 2 applicable IFRS statements, and the conclusion is on page 3 of the submission, that there will be no major impact on the group.
Thank you, Karen. Any questions, comments? External audit, you guys are comfortable with this?
We are.
Thank you. The next item, Karen, on the filling of the vacancies in the finance department.
There's currently 3 vacancies in the department. The first position is the position of financial manager. The position is currently filled by a very experienced consultant, and there will be sufficient time for a handover when the new appointee starts. We have made an offer to the preferred candidate, and we're just waiting feedback whether the candidate will accept. On the budget manager, we are still busy with interviews, and the final interviews will be conducted on the 24th of October. The cost accountant will only leave on the 31st of October, and we have already advertised for the position. Is that sufficient, Chair?
Yes, thank you, Karen. Is there any questions from the committee, the members?
Yes, Chair, I have a question. Through you, CFO, what impact has the vacancies had on the... Apologies. Okay. What do I do? Chair, I think you need to proceed with the rest of the questions.
All right, I
until
do-
they sort out my mic.
I do have some questions, one sent by the member that's not present. A first question related to the almost 50% reduction in the tax expense. Could you just explain to us what caused that and led to that? I think, though, let's take all the questions, and then you can respond to them at the end. Is there any other questions for the CFO related to this item?
Yes, Chair. Through you, Chair, could you please explain what resulted the 15 million rand addition to plant and machinery?
Okay, should I try? Should I try once more? Yeah, Chair, my question is simple on the vacancies. I just wanted to know from the CFO what impact had these on the year-end process and also on the internal financial controls. Thanks.
Is there no further?
No, Karen, not at this point.
Chair, I'll start with the impact of the staff. Of the 3 positions, the most crucial one for me was the position of the financial manager. The consultant we had in place really did provide outstanding service, but we also did, it had a massive impact on myself and the rest of the department. We felt that, but we do feel that we have it under control. In terms of the year-end audit, it required longer hours, and also we couldn't get the information to the external auditors at the speed we normally would. In terms of the financial controls, we do have plans in place to address any shortfalls that there might have been. So I'm quite comfortable with the financial controls that they are working at the moment.
Okay, thank you, CFO, on your response on the vacancy issue. I just think it's important, Chair, that I'm not sure how far we are with the retention strategy policies. I think we need to beef up on that, and also on the just to make sure that our recruitment policy retention, and we have a proper succession planning in place, just to make sure we avoid these issues where the vacancies even have an impact on the external auditor's budget, as you will see later during the meeting. Other than that, I'm happy with the response from the CFO. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The next item I will respond to is the reason for the decline in the tax expense. There was three items that impacted. The first item was the change in tax rate. The tax rate reduced from 26.5% to 24.5%. Secondly, there was a significant amount of expense that wasn't deductible in the prior year for tax purposes. And thirdly, there was a significant moving in the deferred tax balance as well.
Thank you, Karen. I think with that, can we move on to item 3, which is your presentation of the annual financial statements.
Chair. I will take the annual financial statements as read. I would like everybody to note that the company had a really strong performance for the year under review. So I'm quite comfortable with the same, and I will take any questions that's posed on the financial statements.
Okay. Should I proceed, Chair? Thank you. Karen, my question is with regards to page 67. We made we made a capital injection of for about 17 million. What is the progress or the status on the marketing of the prototype of the product?
Thank you. The marketing of the prototype is going very well. We are comfortable that it will be rolled out as planned.
I think from my side, just a question to the company secretary. In the financial statements, we refer to the disposal of Klimt Limited. Can you please just tell us on a high level of the requirements of Section 112 in the Companies Act, and also whether those requirements have been met in disposal of that business?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Section 1112 falls under Chapter 5 of the Fundamental Transactions in terms of the Companies Act. To get that one. In terms of the Companies Act, the question is whether the company has fulfilled the requirements. There are 3 requirements in the Companies Act in relation to that, is that where a company disposes all or greater part of its assets or undertaking, there has to be a special resolution that needs to be passed by the shareholders of the company, as well as the fact that the asset has to be fairly valued. And thirdly, that the company's liquidity and solvency risks have been mitigated. And therefore, in terms of the financial statements that are in front of us, we can observe that the assets have been fairly valued, and the company, in terms of its liquidity risk, it will be able to pay its debts 12 months after the transaction has been completed. So the company has fulfilled its obligations in terms of Section 112 of the Companies Act. I also wish to note, Mr. Chair, and the members of the committee, that the management also took into consideration the requirements of the Companies Act in terms of having the disposal as a going concern in terms of the VAT Act, and that has also been covered in terms of the special resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Company Secretary. CFO, we on item 4, could you please take us through your report for this financial year that's just passed, 31 August 2013?
Thank you, Chair. Once again, I will take the report as read. There's a few items I would like to highlight. The first one is that our underlying profit of 9.9 million was up 20% compared to the 2012 financials, which reflected a strong operational performance and significantly improved trading environment, with price and volume improvements across all main products. The group has 3 main divisions, namely the toy division, the board games division, and the outdoor games division. All of them have seen good growth. The toy division is generating 71% of the external revenues, the board games division 21% of the revenues, and the outdoor games division 5%. The next item I would like to refer to is statutory disclosures.
Yeah, keep it closer.
Is this better? Okay, perfect. Do you want me to recap or can I just continue? I will recap. The group's underlying operating profit of 9.9 million was up 20% to compared to 2012, reflecting a strong operational performance and a significantly improved trading environment with price and volume improvements across all main products. The group has three main divisions, the toy division, the board games division, and the outdoor games division, all of them reflecting good growth. The biggest division is the toy division, which is generating 71% of the external revenues. The board game division, which accounts for 21% of the group's external revenues, and the outdoor games division, which contribute 5%. Although the outdoor games division does not meet the quantitative thresholds to be a reportable segment, management has concluded that this segment should be reported on separately, as it is closely monitored by the strategic chief operating decision maker as a potential growth area in the business. In terms of capital disclosures, we've made a decision that due to the recent market uncertainty, that the group's strategy is to preserve a strong cash base and achieve a debt to adjusted capital ratio of between 10 and 12%. In the previous year, it was 12 to 15%. The objective of the strategy is to secure access to finance at a reasonable cost, maintaining a high credit rating. In terms of dividends, the directors are proposing a final dividend of 5.1 cents in a rand per share, totaling 3.8 million. The dividend has not been accrued in the consolidated statement of financial position. In terms of goodwill and impairment, during the year, one of the operating units in the board game segment lost one of its key customers, and that resulted in an impairment to goodwill of 76,000. In terms of trade and other receivables, 250,000 rand of the trade receivables has been sold to a provider of invoice discounting and debt factoring to supplement our liquidity. The group is, however, committed to underwrite any of the debts transferred and therefore still continues to recognize the debt sold as trade receivables until the debtors repay or default. Assets and liabilities classified as held for sale. In November 2012, the board announced the intention to dispose of Klimt Limited in its entirety, which they started to market in August 2012, and the sale to Artisan was completed in May 2013. In terms of acquisitions during the period, on the 24th of April, the group acquired 100% of the voting equity instruments of Colorsol, a company whose principal activities is the producing of paints and dyes. And the principal reason behind this acquisition was to secure supply for key materials and reduce costs to the group. And then the last item I'd like to report on is contingent liabilities. The group has been informed that a former employee has started legal proceedings against the group for unfair dismissal, and the directors has been advised that the compensation payable is highly unlikely to exceed 250,000. Chair, that's the main points of my report. Is there any questions from the committee?
Members, do we have any questions on this item, on the CFO's report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to note for the purposes of the committee that the dividend that is noted on page 2 of the CFO report in terms of the Companies Act for any distribution to the shareholders has to be approved by the directors of the company at the board meeting. The purpose of the audit committee now is to make recommendations in terms of the liquidity, solvency, and going concern tests that the dividend has fulfilled its obligation. Thank you.
Thank you, Company Secretary. I think for now we note your report, Madam CFO, and in your next item there on the agenda is a going concern assessment. So we'll be looking at the solvency and the liquidity under that item.
Thank you, Chair. I have emailed all the members of the committee an additional handout as requested by the chair of the committee, and that related to the financial forecast for the next 12 months, as well as a review of the loans and repayment schedule. In terms of looking at the going concern assessment, we have reviewed the company's solvency and liquidity position, as well as significant financial risks. We also looked at the company's ability to get additional funding, and we looked at the loans in that perspective. And we also considered whether there's any market impact or legislation that will impact our functioning. And we are quite pleased to say that in our view as management and minor CFO, that we do view the company as positive in a going concern light.
Thank you, Madam CFO. Is there any questions on the going concern assessment done by management? Okay, is the committee satisfied? We note the report, and also regarding your financials, are we happy to recommend this for approval by the board?
Yes, Chair, I move.
Thank you. So we've recommended the financials for the year end for approval to the board. We're on item 6 of the meeting on the agenda, which the company secretary will be taking us through. It's regarding the King 3 compliance in line with the JSE listing requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The members would note that in terms of the JSE listing requirements, a listed entity has to comply with the principles of King 3 and not necessarily the practices. However, it is the practice of the company that will fulfill the requirements and the recommendations of King 3. The purpose of my paper is to ascertain the fact that the company has complied with all the requirements in terms of the principles of King 3 from the first chapter until chapter 8, and therefore we will indicate in our integrated report that there were no areas of non-compliance in terms of the principles of King 3. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Members, any questions or comments? To the company secretary, I have 2 questions. Firstly, regarding principle 2.14, how does our company ensure that the directors are reminded of the fiduciary duties? What do we do to keep them alert and aware of those fiduciary duties? And my second question is, has someone reviewed your report to determine the accuracy and completeness of the information?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The company has got a charter that is updated annually, and the charter specifically describes the role of the board as in respect to the annual financial statement and the mandate that it delegates to the audit committee and the other subcommittees of the board. There is ongoing training. We have for new directors, we have an induction for new directors. However, we also have a development program for the ongoing development of our current directors. Part of that training talks to our ethics policy. So we go through that training with the members so that they understand what are the basic values of our company that are more enshrined in our ethics policy. So we take them through that training. In terms of the question around whether our information has been validated in terms of its accuracy, I am pleased to say that I think my colleague would agree with me that we go through the process of independent objective assurance by our internal auditors, and therefore they have reviewed the report in terms of its completeness and accuracy. My colleague could help me with that one, thanks.
Chair, I do confirm we did review the report and we're happy